that will help you to actually make out the interactions between the various processes, okay, and then how you want to make the distributed application working for your requirement. So what are the various architecture models which you have already seen? From there I'll start, because these fundamentals model will be a part of system model. Under the fundamental model, we are actually working on interaction model, failure model, and security model. So before going towards fundamental model, what are the various architecture models which you have seen? Yes. Yeah, basically you have seen the client server architecture, right? And then you have seen three-tier architecture, and the third one is the coupled architecture, where you can actually call it by the name clusters. So maybe the variations which have been discussed in the class. So that is only single server and many clients, multiple servers and multiple client, right? Then you will be having some proxy servers, correct? And you can have these uh, processes interacting to one another, either the service based or with respect to the peer based. So you can have peer to peer architecture, or you can have client server architecture, basically. So with that you have seen something on mobile code and mobile agent, right? One of the variation. Yes, you have understood this concept, right? Mobile code and mobile agent. Why this is required, and what are the different uses. So all these things you have already covered up in the architecture model. So from now onwards, I'll start up with the today's class, that is uh, the fundamental model. So in this fundamental model, basically we are focusing on the interaction, the failure, and the security model. So why these fundamentals have to be designed? Can anyone guess? So architecture models are required for you to visualize how the various systems have to be topologically kept, right? And how are you going to interact? So these distributed systems are also called as loosely coupled system, right? Yes. Why they have been called as loosely coupled system? Anyone? Anyone else? Why they are called as loosely coupled system? And if you are making it topologically clustered, they are being called as tightly coupled systems. Yes, Sankal. So you are able to view the uh, PPT.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Why they are called as tightly coupled systems in case of cluster, and then why they are calling it as loosely coupled systems other ways. Basically, tightly coupled systems, they will interact to one another in the form of a mesh. So it can be for a specific application which they are interacting, or they will be accessing the servers internally. Like any server can be a client and any client can be a server. So if it is in that particular case, the distributed systems comes under the tightly coupled systems. Or there is one more way to explain it where if you are having multiple processors, they have been shared in a single system. So you have a parallel pooling system where multiple processors are being kept in a single system. So in that case, they have a common memory, okay, common bus to share. So where in case of distributed systems, each system will have its own memory, disk, and processor, and its capability again differs with respect to the configuration which you are going to have. So collectively, distributed systems can have various configurations with various applications which are being loaded in, and then they can interact with respect to various different processes. So now how to measure the performance? So to measure the performance, you need to have these fundamental models wherein we will see what is that you are going to model in interaction and failure and security. So if you are considering interaction model, since multiple processes are interacting with one another, the performance depends on many different parameters. So can anyone guess? You have used web as a distributed systems. You are using online learning tools for your classes as well as for other learning. So you will be able to tell what are the various performance parameters which have to be considered in case of a distributed system. Even cloud system is a distributed system. It is a distributed system is a big picture. Cloud system is a part of it. So even mobile computing, even ubiquitous computing, where even IoT based systems with the various sensors, they are interacting with one another. All those come under the distributed systems only. So can anyone guess what are the various performance parameters which you have to consider? Because multiple processes are interacting. So interacting model should give you the good performance. To design that or to model that, what are the parameters which you have to consider? Yes, anyone? So when you visualize distributed systems, what are the basic things which you are going to consider? See, suppose you are considering the cloud or if you are considering the web, how are you going to measure the performance when you say that it is performing well? Yes,
Ma'am, responsiveness.
yeah, responsiveness, correct. Then that means you want to get the result or the required query has to be processed quickly and you should be able to get the answer quickly, right? That's correct. Then that means the communication channel which you are going to have as well as the uh, the processes which are interacting. So you will have to model in such a way that the latency should be less, right? With the same bandwidth, the more users should be able to access the service, correct? There should not be like jitter or minimum variation whenever the audio data is being communicated or video data is basically the multimedia data is being communicated. Similarly, with respect to the accessibility in the network, the channel communication channel also will come into picture. And thirdly, you will be working with the various drift rates of the systems for synchronization. So the minimum drift rate should be there. So if you are getting the accuracy very high, that means you will be able to get the synchronization. So these multiple processes have to be synchronized and coordinated. So to go with that, you had to see the performance measure in the form of these parameters. So basically, the interaction model can be working with respect to the multiple processes in the form of client-server architecture or cluster-based architecture, or it can be a peer-to-peer architecture. So you need to have two kinds of shareability with respect to data, as whether it is using the same address space. So if you are going to work as a shared memory concept, or if you are going to work with the message passing. So in that particular case, how are you going to increase the performance when you are modeling, interacting various processes with one another? So many of the cases, shared memory concept work well in case of inter-process communication. Along with that, socket-based communication, where you can have connection-oriented or connection-less, that is TCP/IP or UDP kind of communication you will be able to get through an interface as a socket. So we will see these things later, but with respect to the interaction model, you will have to go with the multiple process interactions. So you can have multiple server processes which partitions and replicates the data at servers throughout the internet, or you can have set of peer processes. Good example is video conferencing system that distributes streams of video and audio in a similar manner with the real-time constraints. This is where you will have to consider the minimum jitter. So to work on these interactions, you need to have a distributed algorithm, okay, so that the interconnected processes will be able to follow the protocol, and the system will be performing well. So the detailed definitions of steps to be taken by each of the processes of which system is composed, including the transmission of messages between them. Because in case of distributed systems, the communication is through the messages. So you need to actually model performance with respect to the channel, performance of the communication channel, with respect to the message transmission, and with respect to the synchronization. So these are the three basic interactions which you have to consider. Okay, so to model that, you have to have a minimum latency, the delay between the start of a message's transmission from one process and the beginning of its receipt by another. So this should be reduced. Second one is bandwidth, the total amount of information that can be transmitted over a network in a given time. So that is limited. So within that bandwidth, as many users can utilize that particular service, and at the same time the performance should not go down. So here the scalability issue with respect to the concurrency and consistency has to be considered. The next parameter is jitter, so wherein variation in the time taken to deliver a series of messages. So it is basically focusing on the multimedia data, so that if the jitter is less, the user will feel comfortable either receiving the video or audio data. So the last parameter which you have to consider is computer clock and timing events, because that is where I said you will have to focus on the synchronization aspect. So each distributed system component will have a local clock, right, used by the local processes. Now, whenever the interaction happens between different processes which are working in different systems, but they will have to coordinate and synchronize, the issue of drift will come into picture. I think all of you have the notion of global clock, which is missing in the distributed systems, because you can't synchronize with respect to a reference clock completely. That is because of there is a drift in the this on computer clocks. So that is why you need to see that if you want to get a synchronized way of working, the drift rate should be very less. Uh, Nowadays, because of GPS, you will be able to get that accuracy of 1 microsecond, the variation between various systems drift of the clock. Or you should have a reference clock, which you call it as a time server. And every time there should be some communication happening between that particular time server to give the correct time, which has to be synchronized. So again, here in this particular case, the perfect reference clock will not of that help. But because of GPS, earlier days that was not possible. But now, because of GPS, you will be able to get good accuracy and good synchronization. That is where you are able to get a good performance in case of uh, distributed systems like web or in cloud systems. Earlier, it was not there. Now, can anyone tell why there can be some latency in the network? What are the various parameters which actually impact on latency? So you are going to get the response delayed. What are the various parameters which you have to consider to minimize the latency time? Yes. Finally, you have to get a good throughput, right? That means the performance of the system should be good, so that all the users who are accessing the distributed system services, they will be able to get the response like quickly and then within the time what they have uh, kept as a reference. So yeah, anybody, why there are latency issues which are coming into picture? Bandwidth, because limited. If you are going to increase the bandwidth, then you will be able to get good performance compared to the scalability part. Now jitter, again, many tools are being introduced so that you will be able to minimize the jitter. But to all this, you will be getting some kind of delay, right? So what are the various factors which are actually impacting this latency? Because if you reduce latency, automatically the performance of the system will be improved, right? Yes.
Ma'am, maybe there is something pending in the queue.
Which one?
There is something like some request pending in the queue which causes latency issue.
Okay, then. Basically, you are using the network components, right? So the accessibility of network components, services, as well as the operating system services which are included in the system, those also matters. The communication bandwidth which you are going to use, that also, and then the noise or the interference caused by the various factors, they also include the receivers and senders which are going to use, okay, as systems based on their capability or the compatibility. Again, this latency issue has to be taken care when you model the interaction thing, okay. So we'll move on to the next part. There are two variations of this interaction model. So obviously, when you consider the drift rate, okay, when you are going to work with the synchronized way of interaction, you need to have the time bounds for various process operations. So it is very hard to set time limits on the time taken for process execution message delivery, or clock drift. So within this, if you are putting the bound for execution time or message delivery or clock drift, then it becomes a synchronous distributed system or the synchronous interaction model which you are going to consider. Otherwise, if you are not having any bounds on the process execution or message delivery or clock drift, so in that case, it is coming under the category of asynchronous interaction model. So basically, in case of synchronous distributed systems, timing bounds are using the time to execute each step of process, okay, which will be having a lower bound and a upper bound. Each message has a transmitted over a channel is received within a known bounded time. That means for each message transfer as well as the receiving time, there is a bounded time which is being given. Each process has a local clock whose drift rate from the real time has known bounds. So the variation, how it will be, like when I said, if you are using the reference or the service by the GPS system, so in that case, the variation is 1 microsecond. So it is too less, so you will not be able to feel that there is a drift between various distributor system components which are going to use. So these setting these time bounds comparatively difficult in the real-time scenario, but for real-time systems, if you have heard about earlier, where there is a time restriction for each process execution, as well as the transfer of messages which are going to have within the systems. Okay, so in such kind of applications, you need to have the time bounds. So the interaction has to be modeled with respect to the synchronous nature. So for each step, you have to specify a time limit for sending the message and receiving the message. There should be a time bound. And this drift rate, the known bounds, which will be actually designed whenever you are going for a certain kind of configurations which have to be used in the distributed systems. So if you are considering these strong time constraints for process execution, for message transfer, as well as for drift rate, and then this is coming under the synchronous interaction model. So in case of basically the real-time systems which are going, that two hard real-time systems, where if it is not able to complete within the deadline which is being specified, then the impact or the result will be hazardous. So in such cases, synchronization should be modeled and there should be some time constraints which have to be given. Many healthcare systems where you are going to use sensors, okay, that time constraints, whatever has to be taken care, those should have very good reliability. Otherwise, the consequences will be hazardous. So there, if you are going to model such kind of interactions, you will have to work on the constraints which have to be put up for the process execution, for the message transfer, as well as for this clock drift rate will be taken care when you go for various configurations which you are going to use. The sensitivity of the sensors maybe, or the configuration which is used for a particular specific application. So all these things will be considered. In case of asynchronous, you will not having any kind of time bounds for the process execution or for message transfer, that is sending the message or receiving the message, that there will not be any time bound. And similarly, even if there is any variation in the clock timings, you will not be able to consider those. So many of the distributed systems, they work on asynchronous way only. good example is internet, where you don't have such kind of time bounds. Okay, but if you are going towards the specific real-time applications, you will have to model the interactions between multiple processes, either peer-to-peer or client-server, or clustered ones in a synchronized way. So for that, in case of asynchronous, no time bounds. So in this particular case, the message may be received after any arbitrary long time, or each step of process may take any arbitrary long time. Clock drift rates can also be arbitrary. So no assumptions about the time intervals. Basically, you are not going to consider the time constraint. So in that particular case, you are working on a asynchronous distributed system. So in case of synchronized, since it is not having a global clock, you need to have a ordering, right? So in case of any synchronization process, you need to have some kind of ordering. One after the other, it has to access. Suppose multiple processes, they are accessing the same resource. So in that case, there should be some kind of ordering which has to be given. But since there is no global clock in case of distributed system, there should be some mechanism to get the ordering done so that synchronization is possible. So to work on such kind of synchronization aspects, Lampert actually has given logical time, and based on which you are going to get the event ordering. So the execution of system can be described in terms of events and their ordering despite the lack of accurate clocks. So here you are going to work on a causality relation, that is any operation or any execution of step that will be executed first or later. So based on before or after, you will be having a ordering so that you will be able to get a ordering between multiple events which are occurring in the system. So event handling is the, or event ordering is the basic issue which is being considered and incorporated for synchronization in case of distributed systems. For example, in this particular slide, there are 4 processes, A, X, Y, and Z, and they will be sending various messages. Okay, but how they are going to receive? So this is based on a particular ordering. So always sending the messages will be happening before, and receiving the messages will be happening later, correct? So this particular relation, that is happens before, this relation is being modeled by Lampert, and it will give you a logical event ordering mechanism. On this, we are going to learn more on Lampert's clock and logical clock later in separate chapters. So I am just giving you a brief idea that each message which is being sent by a process which is in one of the distributed system component, that will be happening before any message which is being received. So this is being coined. So in this particular case, send from X, okay, that is being notified as M1, which will be received by Y, Z, and A at different times. Okay. Similarly, the Y process, it is going to send M2 as a message. So which is received by, again, after sending only, the message will be received by different systems. So the M2 message will be received in a different order. Similarly, the Z process, when it is sending the message, so the timeline actually when you are going to check out at T1, only X is sending the message. At T2, Y is sending the message, and at T3, Z is sending the message. So accordingly, when it is received by various processes, those messages have to be ordered. Otherwise, you will be able to get one message earlier because of the network delay, or maybe because of the capability of the receiver, or maybe the blocking nature, that is send block or receive block. You will be able to get various variations in this particular receiving the messages in different systems to get a synchronized way, so that there is no random order in which it will be received. You can logically order it using concept which is given by Lampert, that is happens before relation, can be modeled to get this kind of ordering. So when it is received in the process A, how these processes have to be received, so that you can give a order, and then you can able to get the meaningful message. For many times what happens is you send a message, if it is being received late, or the receiving, if it come across a delay, you may be able to get abrupt messages or messy messages. So sometimes it will have sense, sometimes it may not have sense. So if you want to make it a orderly receiving messages, you have to go for Lampert's clock and logical ordering. So by modeling that happens before relation, that means always sending the processes will be happening before the receiving messages. So that is what is being considered. That is where we are going to work on event ordering later in detail, but this is a brief overview to get a event ordering concept which has to be included in the synchronized interaction model. Otherwise, the message communication between multiple processes in distributed systems will give you a random order, so you may not get any meaningful message received in your end. Is it clear? Yes. Yes, one of you respond. Is it clear? More on this, again, we are working on different chapter detailedly. There we can work on the Lampert clocks, logical ordering. Again, there is one more concept that is known as vector clock. So both we will discuss in detail there, but general concept, is it clear? Why you need to go for event ordering in case of distributed system? Yes. Now again, interaction has stopped. Tell me, is it clear or not? See, suppose X is sending a message saying that at a particular time there's a meeting. Now receiving by Y, Z and A, okay. At the same time, Y is sending some other message, there is a meeting. So whenever it is received in Z or in A, because of some network delay, it might happen that Y's message will be received first and then X message. But it should not happen, right? Like that, right? So otherwise, you will be opting for meeting which is being scheduled by Y rather than X. Maybe X has been given the time earlier. So you must be able to see such kind of things if there is no synchronization with event ordering. If there is a event ordering happening, so then that receiving messages will have a order, so that you are not going to miss any messages which have been sent by X, and then that is being sent earlier to Y. So that is why T1, T2, T3, it is showing in a time space diagram where you will be able to get the interaction between many different systems. So this is something on interaction model. Then next model which you are going to have to increase the performance is the failure model. So if you are making the systems fault tolerant, obviously some part of the performance, that means the responsiveness, you will have to sacrifice, but at the same time you will be able to get a good reliability. So you should be able to get a trade-off between the reliability issues as well as the responsive nature. So both are equally important to get the good performance. So processes and communication channels may fail. So in that particular case, you will have to identify which are the different types of failures which are possible and how are you going to minimize it. So if you are able to make these failures minimal, automatically the performance will be higher. So there are, can you identify some of the failures which you have observed during your usage of distributed systems, either in the form of web or in the form of online learning tool or in the form of financial or bank transactions which you are actually working upon for your daily activities? Yes. Can you identify some of the failures? One I have already just shown on the screen. So can you list out what are the other failures which are possible? See, you have to consider three things. First is the process execution. That is, you will be having different instructions which have to be executed either sequentially or parallelly, right? If you are going to use threads. So in that particular case, what kind of failures you will be able to face? Or you have to see, that is with respect to the channel, that is with respect to the processes, with respect to the channel, that is communication. Because in case of uh, interaction, you need to send some messages and you need to receive some messages, because in distributed system this is the mechanism through which multiple processes are interacting. Yes, am I right? Yes, one of you respond. So what kind of failures you will observe when you connect to a server or when you use a search engine? Many failures you will be able to see. So there can be some omission failures because send omission or receive omission, that is possible. Then you can have basically these omission failures are being called as benign failures, and you can have the failures under the category arbitrary failures. So those arbitrary failures are known as Byzantine failures. So in case of omission failures, when a process or a communication channel fails to perform the actions that it is supposed to do. So process omission failure, it is halted, that is process is halted due to fault and will not execute further. Okay. So this process crash, whatever you observe, that is under the category which is known as fail stop. So in this particular case, you will be able to, the other systems will be able to identify that a particular system has crashed. So it is coming under the fail stop category. So these all kinds of omission failures are under the benign failures, and the arbitrary failures where any type of error may occur. Maybe some wrong values are being written, or if it is executing a different step which is not intended, or missing some of the intended steps which has to be executed. So such kind of errors, if it is happening, these can happen anytime arbitrarily. So those all type of errors or failures are coming under Byzantine failure. And third type of failure is timing failure. So basically, in case of distributed systems, you will have to minimize the failures happening because of omissions, happening because of arbitrary errors or faults, in the channel or in the process, and the timing failures. So if it is a synchronized interaction model, so in that particular case, you will have to consider this timing failures, which have to be minimum. If it is not working properly or if it is not able to achieve the deadline, then in that particular case, various mechanisms have to be included to get the uh, performance in a particular level, so that the failure can be modeled and you will be able to get a fault tolerant nature. So moving towards the omission failures. So suppose in this particular diagram, you have a process P, you have a process Q. So P is a process which is sending the message M. So initially it will, this whenever it goes with the send operation, it will work on with that particular instruction, and the message will be sent to the outgoing message buffer. And through the communication channel, if there are no faults, it will be able to get it in the incoming message buffer. So if it is able to received in the incoming message buffer, then the receive process should be able to execute the receive instruction, so that it will be able to receive the actual content. So there can be various places where this message can be dropped. So communication omission failure, not able to transport the message from sender's buffer to the receiver's buffer. That is, it has sent to the message outgoing message buffer, but it is not received in the incoming message buffer. So in that case, it is called as send omission. But in the second case, it has sent and it is not able to receive it in the this one incoming message buffer. So it will be received omission. So maybe it is happening because due to lack of buffer space, due to network transmission error. Okay, you will be able to get it through the checksum. Send omission failure and receive omission failure, if they are not happening, if you are able to model it properly, so that you will be able to get the performance well. So in this particular case, you will have to check out the buffer space, the network transmission error. Maybe there is some fault which is happening in the communication channel. If you are able to remove that, or if you are able to minimize that, you will be able to get the message sent by process P in one of the system, and the process which is being received in Q in one of the system. The performance will be good. Otherwise, you will be able to get some packets or the information drop. So to avoid that, you will have to incorporate the mechanism in such a way that you will be able to get a good performance and minimum failures. Yes. You can have various class of failures, what are whether process is getting affected or channel is been getting affected. So what is the consequence of these failures? So in case of fail stop, process halts and remains halted. Other processes may detect this state. So many times this is what actually happens. It is not responding. The process is not responding. The server is not responding. Such kind of thing is being detected by the other clients which are accessing that particular service. Similarly, crash. A process halts and it is remains halted. Other process may not be able to detect this particular state. So in this particular case, whatever the uh, operations or the processes which are running in that particular system can be shared in another system in case of distributed systems, and the process will continue. So the various processes which are working in different systems, they will not be able to identify this particular state. Next is omission. It is actually impacting the channel. So the message inserted in an outgoing message buffer never arrives at the other end incoming message buffer. So this is coming under the omission or benign failures. So send omission or receive omission. So these coming under the omission failure, either with respect to the sending buffer or receiving buffer. The arbitrary failures, which are known as Byzantine failures. So it can basically impact the process or the channel. So in case of channel, it might actually drop some of the messages. Okay, in case of process, it might execute some steps which are not intended in that particular execution, or it might miss some of the steps, so that either it will return wrong value, or it will send a wrong message. So in such cases, those all such kind of errors or failures, they are coming under arbitrary errors or failures or Byzantine failures. So there are two basic kinds of failures. One is omission failure, which is already known as benign failure. The second one is arbitrary failure, where either process or channel can be given an impact, and these are called as Byzantine failure. The third category is the timing failure. So this class of failure basically uh, towards the synchronized or synchronous interaction model, wherein either it is not able to achieve the work within the time bound, okay, with respect to the performance issues. So if you consider the class of failure as clock, so process local clock exceeds the bounds on its rate of drift from the real time. That is what I said. If you are considering the local clock, and if it is exceeding the bounds which is being set, so in that case, it will hit the synchronous nature. Similarly, with respect to the performance, if it is exceeding the bound set for the execution of steps, or if it is exceeding the bounds set for sending the message or receiving the message. So in that particular case, performance will be degraded. So in such cases, you will have to model the system in such a way that whether you want to go for a synchronous interaction model or asynchronous, based on that, the performance can be considered, and the failure model can be modeled in that particular way. Yes. So basically, you will have to focus on the three major failures which are possible in case of distributed system process interactions. So omission failures, arbitrary failures, and timing failures. Yes, any doubts? So how are you going to get the fault tolerant nature? So one way is to mask the failures. Second one is to check the validity and the integrity, okay, of the messages which have been received. So in case of masking the failure, a knowledge of the failure of a component can enable new service to be designed to mask the failure of the component on which it depends. So either you hide this particular failure altogether, or you convert this particular failure in a more acceptable type of failure. That means in case of hiding, basically you are ignoring that particular error. Many times you are not able to access a particular server. So what you do after some time, again you try. If you are able to get it, if it is recovered, or if it is able to connect it again, you continue working. So wherein the in the background, some other server will take over, and then it will start working, so that the service is being enabled again to the user. So this is something known as hiding that particular failure, so that user will not be able to identify why the service is not working, and after some time again it will be reconnected, and you will be able to access the service. In the second case, converting it to a more acceptable type of failure. See, as I said, in case of real-time systems where timing constraints are very high, in that particular case, you have two kinds of real-time systems. One is hard real-time system, and second one is soft real-time system. So in hard real-time system, there is no way that you will be escaping it. You will have to achieve that within that particular deadline. Otherwise, the consequences will be hazardous. But in case of soft real-time systems, for example, the bank transactions, for some time, if you are not able to access the server, you will be able to wait for some time and then again you can retry. So to make that thing work, the failure which has been accepted, that is happened, that is being converted into a acceptable type of failure. So this is one way of making it fault tolerant. The second one is reliability of one-to-one communication. So you have to work on the message transmission with respect to the validity of the message and the integrity of the message. So outgoing message delivered to the incoming message buffer within the timestamp. So all these things for the synchronous nature where you are going to consider the checksum or CRC or such kind of mechanisms which are being inbuilt, so that you will be able to get the correct message which is received in the receiver side. Similarly, with respect to the integrity, that is, same message should not be delivered twice, and in the receiving side, there should be an order so that you will be able to get the meaningful message completely correctly at the receiver end. So these things are very important. This is true for any networking system also. I hope you have that CIA. What is CIA? In case of networking systems, which you have already studied, these are the three factors which you have to consider for any reliable communication to happen, and the performance of the system also is maintained at a particular level. So this is something on the failure model. So the third one is the security model. Okay. So this is also an important parameter which you have to model for interaction, because whenever you are increasing the security, automatically the performance with respect to the responsiveness will be minimized, in the sense you increase the security time to get that particular service will be more, right? So but without security you will not be able to work upon. So this is one place where even the challenges are there, even though they have included many mechanisms for securing the data, securing the message transfer, as well as interaction between many different processes. Still, this particular domain is open for research, either with respect to cyber or with respect to information or with respect to data, or as a whole with respect to the distributor system. So if some of you are interested to work on this particular domain, you can go ahead with some good papers and research upon what is the work which is happening, either in the big data side or in the cloud side, or in the cyber side, because nowadays all of us are using the internet facilities, the cloud facilities, as well as the big data as a technology. So you will be able to face some of the security issues even now. Many of the major security threats, they have actually minimized, and then they have incorporated very good mechanisms. So one of that is the blockchain. Many of the places they are integrating. Similarly, you can have many other uh, mechanisms incorporated, removing the existing loopholes, okay, and then make it work for better performance and better security. So this can be achieved by securing the process and the channels, and protecting the objects which encapsulates against unauthorized access. So basically security, whenever you are thinking about either it is with respect to the process or it is with respect to the channels. So if you are considering the processes, then nowadays most of the systems they work on the object-oriented concepts where you work on various kinds of objects, right? So how are you going to protect the objects? How are you going to protect the processes? This is what you have to decide. So protecting the objects, either you are going to have access rights specified and then who are able to access what, or what is the data which is accessible to the users, which are the uh, information which is possible to read or write. So these all things will be coming under the access right and the authentication. So principal is the authority issue which can be given to the user or a process to access the object which is intent to do. So securing the process and their interactions. So interaction through the message whenever it is happening, the message transfer and the interaction is done via message passing. So most of the time, the messages are being uh, actually having a threat of hacking. So threats to processes, communication, and server. So these threats you have to identify which are the threats which are actually focusing on the processes for the communication as well as for the server. So many of the scenarios you will be able to have the processes which are being hitting these threads or the messages in between some of the uh, processes which you call it as or you model it as enemy or you say that man in the middle attack. So in that particular case, a particular process which is having the accessibility of modifying it or deleting it or injecting the new messages, all these things will happen with respect to that process which you call it as an enemy, so that the things are being getting disturbed and the security is being lost. So that is with respect to the processes. Secondly, because of the user impact, if the fake messages have been sent and a particular service is been denied, so in that particular case, this denial of service attack. So that is very prominent in the distributor systems. So how are you going to minimize that and how are you making the channels protected or secured? So these are the things which you have to consider when you are modeling the interaction between many different processes via message passing, because there can be some steps which are executed instruction by instruction in the local machine or with respect to the client server architecture through the message passing mechanism. So when you are considering these two, you will have to take care about the processes which have been impacting the communication which is actually going on with respect to the different processes and the servers which are hit frequently, and then there is a possibility of denial of service attack. So these have to be modeled carefully so that you will be able to reduce these threats and there will be a good security in the system. So defeating security threats can be done using cryptography. That is where the whole domain is working now on the security challenge. Similarly, authentication, that is for your access rights and accessibility of the data or the information which is shared among the public. And third one is the securing channel. So you will be having some mechanisms through which you will be able to get the channel secured. That is SSL, VPNs, all those things you can utilize. Nowadays, they are working on blockchains to secure or to include the security mechanism in the distributed systems. So basically, if you consider a client server architecture, there will be some client process which is working in one of the system, and there are some servers, or here in this particular case you take some server, and then it is rendering some of the services. So in that server you will be having various objects. Okay, so that means you are working on various processes. So from the client side, you are actually invoking a particular method or a service which is required for your work. So a request is been put up from the client side to get that particular service. So whether that request should be working in the server side, whether it has the accessibility of that particular service in the server side, that has to be taken care. Whether client is a valid client who is accessing that particular service has to be checked in the server side. So that is where you call it as a authority to check that particular right. That is working as a principle in case of server side, where it is checking whether it is a valid client or not. In the second case, after getting access and working on that particular service, server will send the result back to the client. So in that case, in the client side, it should be able to check whether it is receiving the reply from a valid server or not. So these kinds of checks will help you to actually avoid the fake users in between creeping in and disturbing the whole communication or the message passing system. So to work on such kind of things, this authentication process will be working in the client side as well as in the server side, because in case of a distributed system, you will not be having the differentiation between the client process, server process separately, because server can be acting as a client for some other, client can be acting as a server for some other client. So that is where you will have to consider this mechanism so that there is a check from both the sides. So this will avoid basically the enemy concept, which can be modeled. The process P, if it is sending the message M to process Q, when through the channel, when it is communicated, any new process will be able to copy this particular message, or it can inject some other new message, or it can disturb the message, or it can corrupt the message. And when it is received in queue, actual message is being disturbed. So this particular thing can be avoided if you are going for an authority check from both the sides. So this is known as basically the man in the middle attack, where the messages are being hampered. Okay, so in that particular case, you can have a principal A, principal B, which will be working as a checking process in case of a particular process P in one of the system, process Q in the second system, and that is how you will be able to secure the channel and then get a good security through the authentication, and avoid such kind of attacks. Okay, or in case of denial of service attack, again you will be able to check the validity of the clients who are hitting that particular server. So this is where the security model has to be modeled in such a way that you will be able to design the systems in the architecture level to get good interact with the reliability and security with respect to the models which you have to design, that is interaction, failure, as well as security at the end. So this is what the syllabus which is covered for the fundamental models, interaction, failure, and security. Yes, any doubts? Which are the other possible threats in the internet? Can you elaborate on that? Because you are extensively using the internet. So which are the other possible threats? Which are the other possible threats? in web or in internet? Yes, anybody? Which are the other threads which you are generally observing in the net? Any doubts you have till now, whatever we have covered? Saniket, can you just give a summary of whatever we have done today? Ishan, Rohan Sharma, Spandana.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can you
Today we
summarize whatever we have done?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me.
Today we discussed about the fundamental models,
Hmm.
the interaction, failure, and security models. And in interaction model, we discussed the latency, bandwidth, jitter, and computer clocks and timing events.
Hmm.
And in fact, and failure models like omission failures, arbitrary fault or error, timing failure, and the security models.
Hmm. So in the security model, what are the concepts you have learned?
Protecting the objects and securing process and their interaction.
Okay, good.
Authority.
Yes. So Suraj BK, do you have anything extra to add to Spandana, whatever she has told? Almost all the points she has covered up. Anything is left out? Suraj? Tarun Verma? Tanya? Yes. Saran Sharma?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Anything you want to add to Spandana, whatever she has summarized?
No, ma'am. She has explained everything.
There is something missing in her summary. Anyone else? Yeah, which is the missing concept? Anyone? No one is ready to give me the answer. What is missed in her summary? Shreyas?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can you summarize whatever is being missed?
Ma'am, she didn't talk about the time failures.
Time failures. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And
then.
how we could like mask the failures when they
Okay.
occur, and
Yes.
how the one-to-one communication has its like how reliable it is and its integrity. That's all I have.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, that is correct. Timing failures she has mentioned, but she didn't tell what are the things which we have covered. Correct. So all of you are able to update from Spandana and Shreyas. Anything is missed out even now? Shruti? Okay, the interaction model variations, synchronous and asynchronous, and the event ordering, why it has to be required, and then how it is included in the distributed system. So these points also equally important. We will be learning it later. So these are the things which we have covered it for today's class. Okay, next class I'll continue with the interprocess communication and related concepts. So before that, if you have any doubts, keep it ready for the next class and get it clarified. Is that thing okay? Yes. Any more doubts? So if there are no more doubts, I'll stop the class today. Thank you one and all. So you can leave the meeting.